This is how to price for profit at wholesale. First, you have to account for materials. How much does it cost to buy the supplies that each product, each unit requires? Then we have to look at overhead. Overhead is basically every other expense that it takes to run your business. It's the electricity that turns the lights on, it's the marketing that goes into your business, it's the advertising. That's overhead. It's pretty much everything else except labor. Labor is the cost of what it takes to actually make what it is that you're selling. And that could be your labor or it could be someone else's labor. And don't worry, I'm going to break these things down a lot more in just a minute, but let's get through the pricing formula. Then we have to add profit. You have to account for profit. Labor is not profit. Let me say that again. Labor is not profit. If you want to hire a production assistant, you need to pay them labor. And now that money is not going into your bank account. What is the money that's going into your bank account? Profit. All right, materials plus overhead plus labor plus profit equals wholesale. That's how you find your wholesale price. When you price for profit at wholesale, you account for profit so that if you never sold another piece at retail, you'd be happy with the profit you make selling wholesale. Could any of you imagine never selling at retail again and still being happy with the money that you bring in? Yeah, yes. Selling retail is expensive. It's time consuming. That is a great goal to have. Now, selling at retail is also great because, sure, it does pad your bank account a little bit, or it can. But we want to make sure that your business is completely functional and sustainable at wholesale. All right? The other thing that pricing for profit at wholesale does is that you can use profit to adjust your price for the way you want to position it in the market. Don't worry, we're going to come back to positioning in the next lesson. But profit isn't a set number. It's a variable. It's something that you can use to, make sure that you're accounting for some profit there, but it's also this number that changes, that fluctuates based on what we actually want the price to be. Because like I said, this is just a base price. It's not the final price. So now let's talk about how you get to retail. Materials plus overhead plus labor plus profit equals wholesale times 2 equals retail. This formula gives you a base price, not a final price. Your final price is determined by so much more than what an item costs to create. Remember? That's our big theme for today. So our final price is going to be based on things like positioning, value story, and overall business strategy or pricing strategy. But this formula gives you that base price, that price that you know my business works at. So if your goal to this point has been making sure your business works, this is the formula that you need. I'm here to tell you you can want so much more than that. We're going to go beyond how it works and make sure that it's thriving, but this is how you figure out how it makes it work. This formula gives you the price as a function of cost, and price isn't a function of cost. So this is all of the disclaimers ever, because otherwise I could just end this class today. You could do the math, or right now, I could end it right now. You could do the math and you'd be set, right? But that's not how it works. That's why I have a whole day to talk about pricing. All right, so that's where we're at. Let's break it down, each piece of this formula. Here's what to consider when it comes to materials. Materials is every single supply that goes into making your product. It is that straightforward. Now, what are some other things that you need to consider? Is it possible to get a lower price on materials? This is where big businesses spend a lot of time and energy, right? How can I get the cost of my materials down? How can I reduce the cost of this so I can make more profit and still sell the product at the price I want to sell it at? Is it possible to get a lower price on materials? This is something I don't think enough maker and craft businesses spend energy on. It's worth sourcing it from the right place. Now, I'm not saying do things that go against your personal values or do things that go against your business values or the positioning of your business in the market. But you do want to make sure you're getting a really good price. That might mean picking up the phone and negotiating. You're a business owner. That's part of your job. Do the quality of the materials you're using reflect the quality of the product that you want to have? Do the quality of the materials you're using reflect the quality of the end product you want to have? Now, this goes both ways. Sometimes I see people trying to sell a more accessible product with high quality parts. That doesn't make a lot of sense if the math doesn't work out. And of course, vice versa is true as well. And that I also see is that if you're using kind of mass manufactured or cheap parts, cheap materials, and you're trying to sell at the high end, you're going to run into trouble. There's things that you can do to mitigate that, but you're probably going to run into trouble. And then finally, is it possible to use a less expensive supply to get the same results? This is another thing to think about. What I mean here is, can you swap something out? For instance, I use Megan's examples all the time because it's the examples that I'm closest to. These earrings, what do you think they're made out of?
Brass.
Oh, you people are too smart. They are bronze. But to the untrained eye, which apparently you all have, I mean, you have a trained eye, but to everybody else, probably the people who are watching, they look gold, right? How would you know the difference? So she's not selling these as gold, obviously. She's selling them as bronze, but she's selling them at a much higher profit margin and a higher price point than would be than you'd figure out from this cost, right? So gold doesn't give her a high enough profit margin, even though she can charge more for it. That's what I'm trying to say. Gold doesn't give her a high enough profit margin, even though she can charge more for it. Sometimes you can charge less and actually have a wider profit margin. And so that's what goes on with her bronze line. The similar thing goes on with her steel line. Her steel line is blackened, fire blackened steel. It also looks a lot like oxidized silver. Well, oxidized silver would be profit prohibitive, but the steel pretty much means her profit margins they're ludicrous in the best possible way. All right, so that's what I'm looking at here. Is it possible to use a less expensive supply to get the same result and thereby up your profit margin? Those are questions you need to be considering. It's not just how do I price this product in front of me, but how can I adjust this product to get to the pricing and profit margin that I really want to get to? Questions about materials? Wonderful. What to consider when it comes to overhead? Like I said, this is everything. All your home studio expenses, rent, internet service, phone, electricity, water, insurance. Talk to your accountant, but there is a certain percentage of all of those things that you can take as a business expense. And if it's a business expense, then it's going toward your overhead. And so you want to work that into your prices as well. So part of this is tax strategy, part of this is pricing strategy, okay? Advertising, how much it costs to get a new customer. So I mentioned before the break, or in the previous lesson, that advertising is something that I think more makers, crafters, designers should be spending more money on. So make sure that you're accounting for that in your overhead costs. Licenses. Do you need a business license, or there's lots of different kinds of licenses. Do you need a business license, or are you licensing images? Are you licensing brand names? A lot of maker and craft businesses have that to consider as well. Or they get in trouble and go out of business even though they've been making a lot of money. So think about those things and make sure they're built into your business. Packing and shipping time. Are you paying yourself for packing and shipping? And of course, are you paying for your packing and shipping supplies? Publicity, I mentioned that with Corey and Parker from Evolved Finance. A lot of maker and craft businesses really depend on hiring people to do publicity and PR for them. Are you factoring that into your overhead? What else? What else can you guys think of goes into overhead? Travel. Anything else? Really? Tiffany? Oh, yes. Why don't you talk about that?
Well, we forgot the lawyers.
We did forget the lawyers. I did not put lawyers on here. Now I feel terrible.
That's okay. I'm Tiffany Staley. I run a blog called The Artist JD that makes the law less scary for creative business owners. We are missing a lot of website costs as well.
Yeah,
Hosting
absolutely.
and website and maintaining all of those and plugins and all of that kind of stuff.
As you can see, I ran out of bullet points. So yeah, legal fees, absolutely. And then all of those e-commerce fees, trade show fees, trade show booths, like all the stuff that you buy to put in the booth, those all go into overhead. Everything you spend on your business that's not materials and not labor goes into this figure.